Okay. So our new SAS, we don't have any more sophisticated sort of steering. I mean, we could actually, because we did unlock the tech for the MechJab's Smart ASS, which is very handy. I'll fly this one, so at least for the ascent on this one, just to show that we can, and then we'll probably go to somewhat more convenient functions. Staging appears to be correct. Wind's good. Can't overkill and overkill. QED overkill doesn't exist. Can a Kerbal survive atmospheric re-entry without a vessel? Shockingly often. Alright, SAS is on, full throttle, go. So this is just going to be the SRBs first. They don't have gimbling, but we do have some atmospheric control with these fins. We're not going to use this material study on the ground here. I could change the threshold so it stops bothering us about that, but that's okay. So we're going to get just enough speed going on here so we actually do have a certain amount of control authority. So again, about 100 meters per second. Our fins should do pretty well. So we're just going to try to tip over. Now, our goal here is to go orbital. So we really... Oh, that's tough. That is tricksy, tricksy, tricksy. So we really would like to do a proper climb if we can. I think we're probably going to end up too steep here because my ability to direct this at this point is very limited. Okay. I'm going to try to be in the middle of the circle for this phase so that nothing hits. Now we should have a lot more control authority though. Because we're on a gimbling engine. Although these fins really want me, they are really forcing me to face prograde. They really want to stick me in the middle of the circle. But I want to tip over some more, because again, my general ballpark is try to get to around 45 degrees at the 15K mark. Alright, we can be a little more chill. Let's try to keep going 90 degrees east as much as possible, though, because that's the rotation of the Earth. Kerbal. Oh, nice crew report there. We'll go ahead and take this one. We'll get more signs from high up, that's okay. So right around 45 degrees, around there. Apoapsis is climbing a little slow, so I'm just going to pitch upwards a little bit, because we're a little shallow. Shallow is good for, like, efficient circularization, but it's also a sign that you might be spending too much time in the thicker, soupier air, whereas it would be much better. Like, you want to... It's this weird balance where you want to climb up out of the thick atmosphere as quickly as possible, but you also want to go sideways as early as possible, because entering orbit is all about going sideways very fast. It's not about going up as much as you think. It's mostly about going sideways. So I'm just holding that 45 degree. Every time you're not facing directly prograde in this climb, though, you're really not being quite efficient with your airflow. But there we go. Time to apoapsis has climbed a fair bit. I'm pretty happy about this now. I'm actually going to switch to orbital mode here to see the orbital prograde and try to face into that. And I think I'm going to be quite pleased. That's still climbing. Apoapsis is 50. So your time to apoapsis is really a sign about like what your overall trajectory shape is feeling like. So I can really just focus on going flat now. Once you get to 40, once you get above 30, there's very little air left, and definitely at 40, like you can just sort of point sideways a little bit more and not worry about too many things going crazy. So I'm really trying to get all my speed to go sideways here. I don't want to make my apoapsis too high because it's not as useful. Detach you. Light the next stage anyway. So we'll go to like 75k just because whatever. But most of what I'm doing here by burning sideways is actually bring up my periapsis. So, what the hell am I talking about with these words, in case you're new to all this? The apoapsis is the highest point of your orbit. The periapsis is the lowest point. Now, right now, the periapsis is inside of the planet. But what's going to happen here is we're going to make a burn when we get to the apoapsis here. And you got to remember, whatever, like when you burn, when you accelerate somewhere, you don't change where you currently are in your path. What you're doing is you're changing where you're going to go later on in your path. So what we're going to be doing by burning here is we're going to be raising the other side of this circle upwards as much as possible. And then you enter orbit. And if you're really good, your apoapsis and periapsis will be very close to one another, nice and circular. It's a sign that you've, like, I don't know. It just feels good when it happens. Most likely our apoapsis will end up higher than periapsis because we won't be doing the perfect burn. That's okay. So we're about a minute away to that. We're entering space now. First Kerbal in space. Valentina Kerman. Yes, we'll do a material study now. Look at this. 25 science from this one. It's a lot better. Doing the space stuff, it's a lot better. Not all of our experiments will run because we've run them on the probe already, but I want to bring them anyway because just in case. So the question now is, when do we start our burn? So we want to face prograde, the direction we're going in. If you burn prograde, what you do is you raise the height of the orbit on the opposite side of where you are. If we had the maneuver planners, which we need like to upgrade our base for, we'd be able to sort of calculate it exactly. I'm going to start a burn now. And if the time to apoapsis starts to climb, and it is, that means we're burning a little earlier than we need. Ideally, there's going to be a certain amount of time to burn to get the periapsis at the right height. And you really want to do, if you could, all of it instantaneously right at the apoapsis. Since that's impossible, you want to do it so that about half your burn is before and about half of it is after. And I think right about now we're doing it. You sort of start to eyeball things. You get okay. The key here is the apoapsis is hardly changing. The periapsis is changing radically and quickly, which is exactly what we're looking for. We're approaching the apoapsis in about 6 seconds now. So part of our burn will be after it, which is... Oh, actually, no. Time to apoapsis is climbing, so we still started it a little early. But here we're close enough that it's going to be fine. There we go. Periapsis is positive. Camera changes. And as soon as it's above 70... Oh. So... These little UI windows, if your mouse is over them, your keyboard inputs don't register. So when I hit X to kill the burn, my mouse is over here, so it didn't actually respond. So we went a little bit more than we should. We like burned 2 extra drops of fuel. We have ludicrous amounts of fuel. I could have gone with the tiny little fuel tank here and been fine. But it was about safety first, making sure we have enough. But we are now in orbit. Assuming that... we can get enough power when we're on the sunny side of the planet on each orbit, then... Ooh, space telescope. Yeah. Oh, maybe some buildings down there. Maybe Kerbin's surface isn't uninhabited after all. You think? What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, if on each orbit we could get enough sunshine to charge all our batteries, which is no doubt, then we could really stay up here, well, I was going to say indefinitely, for up to 3 days. Then we run out of food and oxygen. We actually could do a moon flyby at this point. We have enough delta V that we could easily go, fling ourselves from Kerbin to the moon, wrap around it, and come back. Absolutely 100%. And if we're playing without the life support mod, I would probably try it. The problem is, it takes, the round trip to the moon and back is about 3 days. That's assuming everything goes okay. If you have any sort of inefficiency in there, it can take a lot longer. And then we'd have, instead of Valentina coming back successful as the first Kerbal to go into space, we would be getting back a corpse in a tin can. So that's not ideal. So we're going to go ahead and just land this. Toggle the shutter. Alright, so what we're going to do, and ideally we do this, because anytime you burn prograde or retrograde, what you're doing is changing the opposite side of the orbit. So if we burn retrograde here, i.e. burn ass and forward, so we're slowing down, if we burn here, what we're going to do is drop the orbit on the opposite side. So the most efficient place to do it is if we do it opposite the periapsis, i.e. if we do it at the highest point, and we burn to slow down, then the point that's already the lowest will drop down, and that will mean we'll need less fuel. We have wicked amounts of overkill of fuel, so I'm going to go ahead and just do it now. So I'm going to turn the ship around. Turn the ship around. There we go. So that's the retrograde marker. So we're facing ass first now, over here. And we're going to burn. And all we're going to do is we're going to burn until our periapsis. Again, periapsis will be the lowest point in orbit. It was here, but since we're burning here, this place is now going to become the lowest point in our orbit as we burn at currents. And I'm just going to burn, so now the periapsis is at, we're going slow enough, we could probably bring it down to about 20. Now the periapsis here is at 20 kilometers above the surface of the planet, which is well within the atmosphere. So if we do that, we're going to hit the thick enough air that it's going to burn off enough of our speed that ultimately we won't be doing an orbit anymore. At some point our path is going to interact with the surface of Kerbin, either ground or sea. Most likely, if this is the periapsis, I'm willing to bet we land somewhere around here or something like that. So that's going to be okay. With this, again, our orbital velocity is not that high because it is just a normal orbit, so it probably would be perfectly fine for us to go even to a negative periapsis here to land a little sooner, but I think we're going to be okay. Rocket science with Quill, yeah. So, I don't think there's any reason for us to keep First of all, we can turn off the SAS for a second just to make sure we're not burning power. There's no reason for us to keep this whole stage. It's just a fuel tank and an engine. It does nothing for us, so... I'm just gonna... There we go. Go away. So I'll just turn on the SAS so we stop tumbling, although I suppose a time warp would do it. And at this point, you know what? Before you time warp and you do weird things like this, just do a little quick save. Make sure there's no weird game issues. Just increase the time warp until we hit the atmosphere, then the time warp will end. Don't you need to do a full orbit from mission? Nope. At least you never needed to before. Escape the atmosphere. Did we even have the mission to orbit? Oh, shit! Hold on. This mission is you have to orbit for 40 minutes. Did I quick save when I already dropped the stage? Oh, shit. So that's not going to count as an orbit. That's going to count as our manned mission. But it wants us to stay in orbit for 40 minutes. Ah, poop. So the vanilla one, you don't need that. The vanilla one, as soon as you go orbital, then you can just burn retrograde and come down. But apparently in the SETI contracts, you need to stay up there for 40 minutes. Oh, well. So we'll have to do that next time, which is fine. So we're just going to time warp for a little while here. And we're going to wait for the parachutes to report safe. Oh, it has to be probe? That's not even any. Oh, that's... So that one would only complete with an unmanned probe anyway? Seems like you should be able to do it like manned and get credit for it, but okay. So we'll send a satellite up there, which will stay up there indefinitely. We don't even have to bring it down. We need to make sure we're facing retrograde here. Again, our capsule design should naturally do that, especially if I turned off the SAS. But that'll mostly happen. If we start seeing heat bars, then we'll respond. So yeah, apparently this wouldn't have been eligible anyway. So we're doing things a little out of order. We're doing too well by sending this early manned mission. That's because we got so much science from flying around. Normally you wouldn't have enough science to necessarily have everything unlocked that you needed for a manned mission here. So that's quite bright, but I don't see any heat meters, so I think we're perfectly fine. Heat shield is working well. Yeah. Let's time warp. What could possibly go wrong? Sudden explosions. There you go. Flames have burned away. Any second now, we'll have slowed down enough that the parachutes will be able to go. I might not deploy them instantly, though. Feels like there's something over there. Just going to wait a little bit more, because it'll shorten our fall time. Deploy one. Doesn't get ripped off or anything weird like that. Nope, it's fine. We'll deploy the others and go back to time warping. We do some docking in orbit. I don't know if we'll get to that point today. Docking is very fun, though. It is very fun. It can sometimes be frustrating. So our surface speed is only it's still 5.5 meters per second. It's possible that that one shoot would have still gotten us down to a safe thing. I mean, I don't think Valentina would have died from the one shoot. I'm just worried that, like, something here, like, the bottom part of this decides to crack if we were above 6 meters per second. All right, so we'll recover you. We got a little bit of science out of it. And we completed the manned mission to 18 kilometers thing. Could have saved money and made it, like, a very tiny mission just to accomplish that. Just to unlock the next milestone. Next milestone is probably going to be, like, do an orbit. And we'll be like, okay, we've already done that. Orbit and recovery. Okay, so we completed that manned one. So now they want us to do a probe that orbits and comes back. Okay, so we could do that. We could do both of these in one go. A probe that orbits for 40 minutes and then touches down. You could do them as separate things, but we'll do them in one go. Seems good. And since we've got most of our orbital science, what I'll probably do is... Leffler, we did look at the impact. Well, I discussed it earlier. I talked about how normally it happens as my Science Junior blows up. It's only got an impact resistance of 6 meters per second, which is not very much. Sometimes I've sort of cheated. Well, cheated. By putting like a little structural under it, because most of them have higher tolerance, which is kind of funny. In this case, mostly the question is, what's the quad core's impact resistance? This one is 15. And what about those wedges? 10. Yeah, we probably would have been okay then, because these all seem to have a pretty high impact resistance. So I probably didn't need to be that paranoid. But a little paranoia, not necessarily a bad thing. So, we're sending a tiny little probe to orbit for 40 minutes. And then return. You don't have... Do we have a little tiny parachute? 'Cause that's... Oh, that's the right size. Okay. And these act as really good nose cones. So the probe is going to go up and it's going to come down. It's going to last for 40 minutes. We need to make sure it's got enough power for that. Now, certainly we're going to throw some solar panels on this as well. And these could actually, they could even be the extendy solar panels. They'll burn up on re-entry. But, you know, that's okay. Or I suppose we could put that on a bit below. Like, maybe this is just the bit that comes home. That sounds relatively fair, doesn't it? On the other hand, why am I trying to be fancy? Well, these are quite large. I'm actually a little bit worried about the aerodynamics of doing something like this. Is that the right decoupler? Oh, that's a separator. Yeah, stack decoupler. That's the one we want. Now, the nice thing about sending something relatively light like this is you really need very little to get it done. The Pomeranian. Oh, that's RCS. That's the one. So look at this. This has 1300 delta V because it's so light. I mean, hell, there's... Oh, we need somewhere for the heat shield to be, so I guess we still need to do something like that. And then... I think we can just do something like this. Let's throw the swivel engine on there. 4200. Probably a little bit more juice. There we go. 5200 delta V. Ridiculous amounts of overkill, which is great. You like this. And just a pair of solar panels over here. So that should be okay. This is actually a probe that really could stay in orbit indefinitely and be perfectly happy with that. But we are going to bring it home. So it's got solar panels. It does have the extra battery here just in case any... Well, you know, I really don't need that battery. And that battery is heavy as hell. Because that probe core has actually got like 200 power by itself. So we can do that. Why are you still saying 5200 delta V? That doesn't sound right. Feels like it should be more since I just took off that battery, but okay. So that should be more than enough to get into orbit and then come back. Transmitter? It's got a built-in transmitter for command and control. It can't transmit science, but we don't need it to. Probiter Mark 1. Probe orbiter. I mean, it's sort of a satellite, but it's not meant to stay. I don't know. I guess it's fine. We can call it the Sat Mark 1. We happen to be deorbiting this one. So this is going to be codenamed Decard 414. I have solar panels. Yep. Do you think I stacked 2 probes? No, I see what you're saying. But no, that's just one probe core. This thing just looks like a double. But yeah, it's parachute, probe core, heat shield, separator, a couple of fuel tanks, engine, into another separator, or decoupler, I should say, into just a structural widget here, into the ascent phase. And we're not going to need fins. Newest version just added language support. There were a couple of tweaks here and there, but yeah, 1.3 didn't add that much. Which is part of the reason most of the mods didn't take that long to get in there. Full throttle, SAS is on. These guys will actually, this probe core is actually smart enough to do automatic prograde or retrograde lock, which is handy. Maybe for this one, especially since it's computerized, it makes more sense maybe. We can use the smart ASS, which is just a handy dandy like set of buttons for most operation. Hold, prograde, retrograde, which is the same as these. Normal and radial modes, which would be unlocked later, but we can type in certain behaviors for like the direction. So we're going to start by facing straight up. So instead of using the SAS here, we'll use the MechJeb option. We needed to derate this a little bit here, because I think that's going to go a little quick. Although I like the idea of starting fast, then sort of like easing it back to a more reasonable level. So when we get to the 100 meters per second, we'll go ahead and pitch over 10 degrees. Right, rather than fiddling around and doing it manually. This is rocket science! It should be computerized! One of my favorite things about the old remote tech mods was like programming in all your sequence of moves. And there's a... now you can go surface plus level for possibly an accurate gravity turn. There is a thing where you can like actually program scripts to run your modules completely automated. And it's a very fun challenge to do. Really fun challenge to do. Did a stream, I think, at some point where we wrote a script for like an automatic landing behavior for the moon, and it works really well. So we're not pitched over quite as much as I would like here, so the thing to do at this point is actually just to throttle down. I'm not going to mess with steering at all, but by throttling down, gravity will go and pitch us over a little bit more. If I throttle down enough, we can actually get our time to apoapsis to stop climbing, which is, again, mostly just going to act as a way to pitch us over. Bring it, bring it, bring it, bring it. There we go. That looks pretty good. Hands-free. Watched Ava play Ark yesterday. Seems like an awesome game. It is incredibly impressive what goes on in Ark. I mean, I know the company had some like weird things with, you know, early access and DLC and this and whatever, but it is a pretty impressive product. So again, here, we're not going to want to shoot too high for apoapsis. I'm going to throttle down again because our time to apoapsis is climbing quite a bit. And we can just chill that out a little bit. At a certain point, maybe now we can change to orbital prograde. We could always burn sideways too for more efficiency. So our apoapsis is more than climbed enough at this point, so we'll just go ahead and hit the brakes on this. And we'll mostly go to get there, and then we'll circularize. Depending on my settings in MechJeb, it may auto-deploy the solar panels as soon as we get into space. Oh, apparently I do not have that option turned on. I'm a big fan of that, because otherwise I tend to forget things. And then I suddenly find myself out of power. It's not under here? I thought it was, but maybe not. Time to apoapsis, 30 seconds. So even though we're early, what I'm going to go and do is finish the burn. I'm going to finish the rest of the fuel in this stage, which is going to send our apoapsis higher than it needs to be. But this is just, like, because I don't know what our thrust weight in the next stage is. Well, I can see it here. It's not bad. But I don't know what the burn time will effectively have to be. So we climb, we're raising our apoapsis a little bit more than we need to, but it's not a big deal. So we'll wait until we're a little closer to the apoapsis again. And we'll burn to circularize. So if I do this... Hold on a sec. Make sure we don't accidentally stage one too many times. Okay, time to apoapsis is shrinking, although I suspect it'll start to climb in a second. Yeah, basically frozen, so let me chill this for a second. No, 40-minute orbit is what we need to do for the mission. Apparently, which we could have done last time. Well, apparently not, because it wasn't a probe last time. I don't know if it had the check marks next to the probe or not, but So as soon as we're in orbital situation, which is going to happen once we circularize, then that check mark will go, and it'll start counting down. Just got to raise the parry. Boom. Okay. Green, green, green. So now what we do is we just time warp. How's everyone doing? Not that it matters, but I'm going to turn that off. Power's good. I mean, it's draining right now because we're on the shady side, but now it's climbing back up. Look how lovely this is. What's the... Is it F1? No. F1 is the screenshot. F2 to hide. Look at her little probe. Just saying hi to the sun. I want to hug you, son! It's almost like he's got a little face. Couple of eyes and a nose. Look at this guy! He's got a hat? I don't know how to, like, turn... There we go. I'm sure there's a way for me to turn my camera angle to that, like, look at it straight on, but look! Look! It's a person! Hello, son! It's actually quite coincidental that we're facing exactly the correct direction to get the full potency from this. Well, I mean, most is going to be okay unless we rotate that way, but... Boop. Our reaction wheels are not as strong as I thought. Anyway, keep fast forwarding. C or V for camera. Ah. C's the, like, internal one? Yeah, but there's something for that. You're right. It's the Android. Space Gnome. Oh my god, you're right. It does look like a Space Gnome. 6 minutes left. 5 minutes left. 4 minutes left. 3, 2, 1. And mission complete. Orbit around Kerbal is completed. Big money, and some free science, which is also very nice. Is there another contract that we can accept right now? The next one in the series? Kickoff space tourism. Oh, we could do some of that. Position a satellite in a tundra orbit? Material bay. So a bunch of science stuff. Oh, that is very well paying. We could consider to do this this satellite thing. How high up does it have to be? Pretty high up, and a pretty wonky angle, which is going to be a little tricksy, but not impossible. There's a good advance. You know what? We're going to take that one. It's going to be fine. Anyway, so that's all done. All we have to do now, we want to do our recovery. We've orbited. We need to recover. So that's okay. We can go ahead and turn retrograde. And go for burn. And ideally, you would do it like right at the apoapsis. That's okay. That's a little lower than I thought that I wanted, but that's okay. Let's just do a quick little save here. And stage. And what we're going to do on re-entry is keeping surface retrograde is what we're looking for. So we're going to, again, want to point our ass end into the wind, which is what the shape should probably do on its own anyway, but explicitly locking it that way is just a little safer. Ass end into the wind where heat shield is. There we go. I think it was a pretty cheap mission to run, too. Bum, 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 bum. We got some tips that came in. Zero Edger. Thank you very much. Hey, Quill, here is some of the change from my new SSD I got yesterday. Ooh, for whiskey and chocolate. Cheers from Barry. Hey, just south from you. Exactly. P.S. You caused me to dive into Stellaris. An excellent game. Time well wasted. That's our goal here at Quill 18 Incorporated. We hope that you waste your time well. Time well wasted, I think, is a tagline for some sort of product, though, isn't it? I feel like it is. I don't know for what. Like, is it just like something like PlayStation or something? Or is it like Dave & Buster's? I don't know. Feels like it's a tagline for something that's out there, but